It started as one of those harmless pranks that friends pull on each other when boredom and curiosity mix together in the wrong way. I never thought a simple dare could lead to something that would completely change how I saw myself. My name is Ryan, and until that day, I had never questioned who I was or what made me comfortable in my own skin. But sometimes life pushes you into moments you never expected, and you come out on the other side feeling like a stranger to the person you used to be. It all began one lazy Saturday afternoon. I was hanging out at my best friend Emma's place. We had been close since high school. She was confident, sarcastic, and always had this mischievous spark that made every dull day feel a bit more alive. I was the quieter one, the type who overthinks everything. Emma liked to tease me for being too cautious. That day it was pouring outside, and we were stuck indoors, flipping through channels and complaining about how boring our lives had become. "Let's do something fun," she said suddenly, sitting up straight. I could tell from the look in her eyes that her idea of fun usually meant trouble for me. "You're always so serious, Ryan. You never loosen up. I think it's time for a little challenge." I laughed, rolling my eyes. "What kind of challenge?" She smirked and stood up, walking over to her closet. "You'll see." The sound of hangers sliding and clothes rustling filled the room. "You always make fun of how long it takes me to get ready," she said, her voice playful. "So, let's see how you handle my world for a few minutes." Before I could respond, she turned around holding a bundle of clothes, a soft pink sweater, a pleated skirt, and a pair of black tights. My heart skipped a beat. "You can't be serious," I said. "Oh, I'm very serious," she teased. "It's just for fun. You try them on, I'll take one picture and that's it. No one will ever know." I hesitated, feeling the heat rise in my face. "Emma, come on. That's ridiculous." But she didn't back down. "What's the worst that could happen? Just clothes, Ryan. Besides, you always say you're up for a good laugh. Prove it." She knew exactly how to challenge me, half mockery, half dare. And something about her tone made it impossible to refuse without sounding uptight. So I sighed dramatically. "Fine. But one picture, and then we forget about this." She grinned victoriously. "Deal." Emma handed me the outfit and pushed me toward the bathroom. As I closed the door behind me, I stared down at the clothes in my hands. The sweater was soft and light, the skirt delicate and airy. I could feel my heart pounding. Felt absurd, standing there about to do something so out of character. But part of me was curious, in a strange, nervous way. I started with the tights. They were tricky to put on, so thin and smooth that I was terrified of tearing them. When they finally slid up my legs, I froze for a moment, surprised at how different they felt. My reflection in the mirror didn't even seem like me from the waist down. Then came the skirt, which brushed softly against my legs when I moved. The sweater was oversized and warm, falling loosely around my shoulders. I looked ridiculous, I told myself. Completely ridiculous. But when I looked in the mirror again, I didn't laugh. Instead, I just stared. It was strange. I didn't look like Ryan, not the one I was used to seeing every morning. There was something softer, calmer about the reflection. I didn't recognize that feeling, but it wasn't entirely unpleasant either. "Are you done in there?" Emma called from the other side of the door. Her voice filled with amusement. "Yeah," I muttered, still staring at myself. "Come on out then." I took a deep breath and stepped out. Emma's laughter filled the room instantly. "Oh my God, Ryan. You actually did it." I forced a laugh, trying to hide my discomfort. "There. You happy now?" She circled me, still laughing. "You know what? You actually pull it off better than I thought." I frowned. "That's not funny." "I'm serious," she said, tilting her head. "You look kind of cute." Her words caught me off guard. I wasn't used to hearing that, especially not like this. "Okay, joke's over," I said, reaching for my clothes. Wait, she said quickly. "At least let me fix your hair first. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Before I could protest, she pushed me back into the chair near her vanity. She ran a brush through my hair, humming softly. It was oddly relaxing, and I felt my heartbeat slow down. Then she pulled out a few hairpins and clips, giving me soft bangs that framed my face differently. "There," she said finally, stepping back. "Now look." I turned to the mirror again, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't just about the clothes anymore. My face looked different, gentler, almost like someone else entirely. Someone I couldn't stop staring at. Emma watched me closely. "You okay?" I blinked, trying to laugh it off. "Yeah, just weird seeing myself like this." "Weird good or weird bad?" she asked. I hesitated. "I don't know yet." She smiled knowingly. "That's the fun part. Figuring it out." She snapped a quick picture and I tried to laugh again, but my mind was spinning. As I changed back into my regular clothes, the feeling didn't fade. Even when I left her house later that evening, the reflection in her mirror haunted me. It wasn't just a prank anymore. It felt like I had opened a door I didn't know existed, and something deep inside me had stepped through. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that version of myself, the one in the pink sweater, the one who looked oddly comfortable, almost happy. I tried to shake it off, but the thought kept coming back. What if Emma hadn't tricked me at all? What if she had just shown me something I wasn't ready to see? The next morning I told myself it was nothing, just a silly moment. But deep down I already knew that something had changed, and that change was only beginning to take shape. The next few days felt strange. Everything around me was normal. My work, my friends, my routines, but something inside me felt off, like a quiet echo that wouldn't stop. Every time I saw a reflection, even in a passing shop window, I remembered that moment in Emma's room. The softness of the clothes, the way the fabric moved, the gentle way I looked in the mirror. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something deeper, something I couldn't name. By Wednesday I couldn't take it. I told myself I was just being silly, that it was nothing, but that thought kept pushing forward. So I texted Emma. "Hey, are you busy later?" She replied almost instantly. "Nope. What's up? Can I come over? Need to talk." Her response came with a laughing emoji. "You're not still thinking about that outfit, are you?" I froze, staring at the screen. Was it that obvious? "Just come over," I replied quickly, trying to play it off. When I got there, she greeted me with that same teasing grin. Well, the great Ryan returns. "What can I do for you today?" Another fashion consultation. I rolled my eyes, trying to act casual. "Very funny." "No, I just wanted to talk." She raised an eyebrow and motioned for me to sit. "Okay, serious face on. What's going on?" I hesitated, not sure how to say it without sounding ridiculous. "It's about that day. The clothes." Her grin faded a little. "What about them?" I took a deep breath. I can't stop thinking about it. Not in a weird way, just... it felt different. I don't know. Comfortable, maybe. Emma's expression softened. She didn't laugh this time. "Comfortable?" He nodded. "Yeah. I thought it'd feel stupid, but it didn't. It felt kind of right, which makes no sense." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "It actually makes perfect sense. Sometimes we discover things about ourselves in the weirdest ways." I looked down, fiddling with my hands. I don't even know what that means for me. I just know I can't stop thinking about it. Emma was quiet for a moment, then smiled faintly. I think you're just curious. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to mean anything huge right now. You can just explore a little." "Explore how?" I asked, half nervous, half intrigued. She grinned again, but softer this time. "How about we make it a proper experiment? No jokes this time. You let me dress you up again, but this time we take it seriously. No laughing, no teasing. Just you trying it out." My stomach flipped. "You're serious?" "Completely," she said. "You trusted me once, right? Trust me again." I hesitated, but the truth was, I already knew my answer. The curiosity had been growing all week, and it wasn't going to fade unless I faced it. "Okay," I said quietly. Her smile widened. "Perfect. Let's get to work." She opened her wardrobe again, but this time there was no teasing. She carefully picked out clothes. A light blue blouse, a pair of jeans that looked soft and fitted, and a long cardigan that looked almost cozy. Nothing flashy or over the top. Just simple, normal clothes. "Start with these," she said gently. I nodded, taking them into the bathroom again. As I put them on, I noticed how naturally it all felt this time. The fabric fit against me easily, and I didn't feel as nervous. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a version of myself that felt calmer, not trying to impress anyone, just existing. When I stepped out, Emma's eyes lit up. "See, that looks natural on you." I laughed nervously. "You think so?" "Absolutely," she said. "You look relaxed. Like this version of you makes sense." I glanced back at the mirror, half expecting to disagree. But she was right. Something about the reflection didn't look forced. For the first time, I wasn't pretending. I was just me, even if I didn't fully understand what me meant anymore. Emma sat me down again and handed me a hairbrush. "Try this," she said. "Brush it forward a little, see what happens." I followed her instructions, brushing my hair differently. And for a moment, it didn't feel like I was playing dress-up. It felt like I was discovering something hidden. "Now," she said, smiling, "look at yourself again." I did. And this time my heart didn't race with embarrassment. It beat slowly, steadily. There was a quiet peace in seeing that reflection. "This doesn't look wrong," I whispered. "It's not wrong," she said softly. "It's just new." We sat there for a while, neither of us saying much. The rain tapped against her window again, just like it had the first day. The air between us felt heavier now. Not uncomfortable, just full of unspoken things. When I finally changed back into my regular clothes, it felt strange. Not bad, just dull. Like I was stepping out of something more real into something that didn't quite fit anymore. As I left Emma's house, she called out, "Hey Ryan. For what it's worth, I think it's kind of amazing that you're being honest with yourself." I smiled, not sure what to say. "Thanks, Emma." Walking home, I kept replaying her words in my mind. Honest with myself. Maybe for the first time I was starting to understand what that meant. That night, I opened my closet and looked at my clothes. All the same shirts, jeans, and jackets I'd worn for years. They felt empty somehow, like they belonged to someone else. I didn't know what was happening to me, but I couldn't deny it anymore. Something inside had shifted, and pretending otherwise wouldn't make it go away. It wasn't just curiosity now. It was a quiet, growing truth, one I wasn't ready to speak aloud yet. But deep down, I knew I'd see Emma again soon. Because whatever this was, I wasn't done exploring it. Not even close. The next weekend came faster than I expected. Every day at work that week, my thoughts drifted back to that mirror, that feeling of calm I'd had when Emma handed me the hairbrush and told me to just look. It was strange. How something so simple could stir something so powerful inside me. I found myself zoning out during meetings, staring at reflections in windows, wondering who I really was beneath everything I'd always been told to be. By Friday, I couldn't resist. I texted Emma again, this time without overthinking it. "You home tomorrow?" She replied with a winking emoji. "I knew you'd ask. Come over around noon." That night I barely slept. I didn't know why I was nervous. It wasn't fear exactly, just anticipation. Like part of me knew something big was about to happen. When I arrived at her house the next day, she was already waiting, smiling like she'd been expecting me all along. "So, are we continuing the experiment?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I think I need to." She gave me a warm smile. No teasing this time, no smirk. "Then today we take it one step further." Before I could ask what that meant, she pulled out a small box from her dresser. "I thought about you this week," she said. "If you really want to see what this side of you looks like, we'll do it properly." Inside the box were simple things. Light foundation, a soft brush, a few neutral colors of lipstick, and mascara. My stomach twisted. "You want to. Only if you're okay with it," she interrupted gently. "No pressure, Ryan. I just think you should see how small changes can bring out different parts of you." I looked down at the box, then back at her. There was no judgment in her face, just quiet encouragement. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's try." She smiled softly. "Sit still then." She worked slowly, explaining everything as she went. How the foundation evened out skin tone, how the mascara brightened the eyes. Her voice was calm and kind, and I found myself relaxing under her touch. The air between us felt different this time. Not like a joke or a dare, but like something meaningful. When she finished, she handed me a mirror. The person staring back at me wasn't who I expected to see. My features looked the same, yet completely new. My eyes seemed brighter, my face softer, more expressive. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, natural. But somehow it felt right. For a long moment I couldn't speak. Emma broke the silence. "Well," I swallowed hard. I don't know what to say." She tilted her head. "How do you feel?" I took a deep breath. "Like I'm meeting myself for the first time." Her smile grew gentler. "That's kind of beautiful, you know." I laughed shakily. "I don't think anyone's ever called me beautiful before." "Well, maybe they should have," she said softly. We sat quietly again. I couldn't stop looking at the mirror, studying every detail, every expression. It wasn't about pretending anymore. It wasn't a prank or a costume. It was me, just different, freer. After a while, Emma said, "You know, I think you should pick out your own outfit today." "Me?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," she said. "Trust your instincts. Go through the closet. Pick what feels right." Her words echoed in my head. What feels right? I hesitated, then stood and began sifting through the clothes. I didn't go for the flashy ones or the bright colors. Instead, I picked a simple cream blouse and a long, soft skirt with tiny floral patterns. I didn't even know why. Just felt right in my hands. When I put them on and turned toward Emma, she smiled softly. "You see, you already know what works for you." I didn't answer right away. I just looked in the mirror again, and for the first time I didn't feel like I was playing a part. I didn't feel like a joke or an outsider. I felt like myself, peaceful, grounded, almost relieved. We spent hours talking after that. Emma told me about her cousin who had gone through something similar, how it had taken them years to accept what they felt, but it had started with small moments like this one. I listened quietly, taking it all in. "You don't have to label anything right now," she said. "Just explore. Try to understand what makes you feel comfortable, what feels like you." I nodded slowly. "It's strange. I never thought about things like this before." "That's because you never had to," she said gently. "But maybe it's time you do." Later that evening, as I washed off the makeup, I felt an odd sadness settle in. I didn't want to go back to how I looked before. Not because I hated it, but because it felt incomplete somehow, like I was erasing something honest. When I stepped out of the bathroom, Emma looked at me thoughtfully. "You're thinking a lot, huh?" "Yeah," I admitted. "It's like I've opened a door, and now I can't close it." She nodded. "Then don't. Doors are meant to lead somewhere." On the way home, I kept hearing those words. I didn't know where this door led, but I knew I couldn't go back to pretending it didn't exist. That night, I looked at myself in the mirror again. Just me, plain and unadorned. But I could still see traces of that other reflection. Softer, calmer, more whole. And for the first time I whispered to myself, maybe it's okay not to have all the answers yet. The days that followed felt lighter somehow. I found myself smiling for no reason, feeling more connected to something I couldn't yet define. I didn't tell anyone else, not yet, but I didn't need to. This was just between me and the person I was still learning to understand. And though I didn't realize it then, that quiet confidence was just the beginning of a much deeper transformation, one that neither Emma nor I could have predicted. Weeks passed, but the memory of that day stayed with me. It wasn't just a single experience anymore. It was something that began to follow me quietly, shaping the way I saw myself in small, unexpected ways. Every morning when I got dressed, I felt that same hesitation, as if the clothes I'd worn my whole life didn't belong to me anymore. They felt heavier somehow, stiffer, as though they were made for someone else entirely. I tried to brush it off at first, telling myself it was just a phase, some passing curiosity sparked by a strange afternoon. But deep down I knew it wasn't fading, it was growing. The reflection I'd seen in Emma's mirror had planted a seed, and no matter how much I tried to ignore it, it was slowly taking root inside me. One Friday evening, I found myself standing in front of my own mirror at home. My heart was racing, just like that first time at Emma's. I opened my closet and stared at the rows of shirts and jeans. Everything looked so predictable, so dull. Without thinking too hard, I reached for an old hoodie of mine and held it against myself, imagining what it would look like if it fit differently. Softer, lighter, more of me. That night I messaged Emma again. "Can I come over tomorrow?" She replied within seconds. "Of course. What's going on?" "I don't know," I typed, hesitating for a long time before pressing send. "I just need to figure something out." When I arrived the next morning, she greeted me with her usual warmth. But there was a new kind of understanding in her eyes now, like she already knew what I was feeling before I said a word. "Come on in," she said softly. "You don't even have to explain. I can tell." We sat down in her room again, the same place where this all started. The sunlight filtered through her curtains, filling the space with a calm, gentle glow. "I think I'm confused," I admitted. "I don't even know what I'm supposed to call this. It's not just about the clothes, it's something deeper." Emma nodded slowly. "It usually is. It's about seeing yourself differently. Sometimes it's not even about changing. It's about recognizing what's already been there all along." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I looked down at my hands and took a slow breath. "I don't know who I'm supposed to be anymore." He smiled kindly. "Maybe you don't have to decide that yet. Maybe just be who feels right today." I thought about that for a moment, then nodded. "Can we do it again? Like last time?" "Of course," she said. "But this time I want you to pick everything. Hair, makeup, clothes, whatever feels right. No limits." The idea scared me at first, but the more I thought about it, the more freeing it felt. So I stood, walked over to her wardrobe, and started searching. My hands moved slowly, thoughtfully. I wasn't just picking random pieces anymore. I was choosing with purpose. After a few minutes, I pulled out a simple lavender dress with soft fabric and short sleeves. It wasn't flashy, just gentle, like something that belonged in a quiet afternoon. I paired it with a light cardigan and stood there for a moment, holding them against myself. Emma smiled. "Good choice." As I got dressed, I felt that same quiet comfort wash over me again, stronger this time. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't feel shock or disbelief. I just felt calm. Familiar even. Emma stepped closer and handed me the makeup brush. "You want to do it yourself this time?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think I should." My hands trembled a little at first, but once I started, everything flowed naturally. Light foundation, soft touch of color, a little mascara. Nothing heavy, just enough to soften the edges. When I finished, I met my own gaze in the mirror, and for the first time I smiled without hesitation. Emma stood behind me, watching quietly. "You look like you," she said. The words made my throat tighten. "You think so?" "I don't think," she said softly. "I know." Something in me broke open then. Not in a painful way, but like a wave of understanding finally washing over me. I wasn't pretending. I wasn't playing a role. This was me. The version of me that had always been hidden beneath layers of fear, expectation, and confusion. We spent the rest of the day talking about everything: identity, fear, the future. Emma told me that discovering who you are isn't about rushing to an answer. It's about learning to listen to yourself. "You've always been careful," she said. "You plan everything. But maybe this part of your life doesn't need a plan. Maybe it just needs honesty." Her words stayed with me long after I left her house. That night I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My reflection glowed faintly in the dark screen before it turned on. I hesitated for a long time before opening a new document. And then I started writing. Everything I felt, everything I couldn't say out loud. By the time I stopped, it was well past midnight. But I felt lighter. The words weren't perfect, but they were true. Over the next few weeks, I started to find small ways to bring that version of myself into my everyday life. Little things at first, wearing softer colors, taking more care with my hair, even just standing differently, walking differently. It wasn't about hiding who I was before. It was about blending the two parts of myself into something real. One afternoon, Emma and I met at a small cafe downtown. As we talked, I noticed how she didn't look at me with surprise anymore. She just smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You know," she said between sips of her drink, "when I first joked about you trying on my clothes, I never thought it would lead to this." I laughed quietly. "Yeah, me neither. But I'm glad it did," she said. "Because I've never seen you this peaceful." Her words warmed me. For so long I had felt like I was running from something I couldn't name. Now, I was beginning to realize I didn't have to run at all. That night, as I looked at my reflection once more, I didn't see confusion anymore. I saw growth, change, acceptance. And though I still didn't have all the answers, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever this journey was, it wasn't something I could turn away from anymore. By the time a month had passed, the change inside me had become impossible to ignore. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet and steady, like the slow turning of seasons. My reflection no longer startled me the way it once had. It felt familiar now, like meeting an old friend I'd somehow forgotten. There was still uncertainty, yes, but beneath it was something stronger, peace. Emma and I had grown even closer through all of this. She became my anchor, someone who never asked for explanations, who simply let me exist without judgment. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted her room in warm light, she asked a question that made me stop and think. "So," she said softly, brushing her hair back, "have you thought about what comes next?" I hesitated. "Next?" "Yeah," she said. "You've been exploring, learning about yourself. But have you thought about what you want to do with it?" I looked down at my hands, unsure. "I don't know if I'm ready for anything big. I just like being me when I'm like this. When it's quiet, when no one's watching." She nodded slowly. "That's okay. But don't be afraid to take small steps. You deserve to feel like yourself all the time, not just here." Her words echoed in my head long after I went home. That night, I stood in front of the mirror again, the same one that had reflected so many versions of me. Confused, uncertain, afraid. But now, when I looked at my reflection, I saw something different. I saw strength. I opened my closet and stared at the rows of familiar clothes. My hand paused on a soft cardigan Emma had lent me weeks ago and forgotten to take back. I slipped it on over my usual t-shirt. It was such a simple thing, but it felt right, like a quiet acknowledgement of both sides of myself existing together. The next morning I decided to wear it out. Just the cardigan, nothing else different. It wasn't about making a statement. It was about seeing how it felt to carry that small part of me into the world. As I walked down the street, I expected people to stare, but no one did. The world moved on as it always does. And that realization was freeing. It reminded me that most of the limits I felt existed only inside my own mind. Over the next few weeks, I started making little changes, subtle ones. I grew my hair out a bit. I began shopping for clothes that felt comfortable instead of just familiar. I stopped worrying about what box I fit into. Every step felt small, but together they started to form something whole. One evening, Emma invited me over again. She smiled when she saw me. "You've changed," she said simply. I laughed. "You're the one who started this, remember?" She shook her head. "No, you did. I just gave you a nudge." We sat together by the window as the sky turned dark. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The air was calm, filled with that quiet kind of understanding that doesn't need words. Finally, she said, "Do you regret it? Any of it?" I thought about that for a moment. About the confusion, the fear, the uncertainty. And then I shook my head. "No, I don't think I do." She smiled. "Good. Because from where I'm sitting, you've found something real. And that's rare." Her words stayed with me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. It all began with a prank, a harmless little dare meant to make us laugh. But it turned into something that changed how I saw myself forever. It wasn't about clothes anymore, or appearances, or what anyone else thought. It was about honesty. About looking in the mirror and finally seeing someone I recognized. Someone I could be proud of. A few weeks later, Emma and I went out together for the first time. Not as a joke, not as an experiment, but just as two friends spending an afternoon together. I wore something simple, a blouse and jeans that fit comfortably the way I liked. She didn't say anything when she saw me. She didn't have to. Her smile said enough. As we walked through the park, she nudged me playfully. "You know, I think this version of you suits you best." Smiled. "Yeah. I think so too." We stopped by a small pond, the water shimmering under the sunlight. I caught a glimpse of my reflection there. Soft wind brushing through my hair, eyes calm and clear. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was looking at two versions of myself. It was just me. Oh. Emma threw a pebble into the water, breaking the reflection for a moment. "You ever think about how weird it is?" she asked. "One little moment can change everything." I nodded slowly. "Yeah. One dare, one choice. And suddenly you see yourself differently." She smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, I'd say it was the best dare I've ever come up with." I laughed, shaking my head. "You tricked me into it." "Maybe," she said with a grin. "But I think you needed it." We walked in silence for a while after that, both lost in our thoughts. The world around us felt softer somehow, warmer, more alive. When I got home that evening, I looked at myself in the mirror one last time before bed. I wasn't nervous anymore. I didn't feel like I was pretending or playing a role. I was just me. And that was enough. Strange, looking back now, how something that started as a prank became the moment that defined everything that came after. I used to think change had to be loud and dramatic, something that everyone noticed. But real change, I learned, happens quietly. It happens in the still moments when you stop fighting who you are and start listening instead. I don't know what the future holds for me. Maybe I'll keep evolving, keep learning. Maybe I'll find new ways to express who I am. All I know is that I'm not afraid anymore. And sometimes, when I think back to that rainy afternoon when Emma laughed and dared me to try on her clothes, I can't help but smile. Because that was the moment everything began. Not a trick. Not a mistake. Just the first step toward finding myself.